Hi YouTubers, Red Razor 56 here today. Going to do a short instructional video on quieting the rear brake rattle down on the Polaris Razor. I don't know if any other brands do it. I know there's some other brands that have squeaking issues that are just absolutely horrid. You know, they're not too bad for the first 5 or 10 minutes on the trail, but when you're putting up with it all day, it gets old. Some of this might actually apply. Okay, here's the problem. You're riding along and you start to hear this strange rattle in the back of your Razor. One quick way to diagnose it to see if your problem is what I'm trying to make a video on here is just reach over with your left foot and apply gentle pressure to the brake pedal and see if the noise goes away. It should go away entirely. And if so, what's happening is on your rear outer floating pad, you're getting this action right here, and you get this, and when you add the vibration of the machine plus 15 or 20 mile an hour, that really sounds bad. It travels all up through the suspension, and it sounds really bad, and it's not. But we're going to do a couple of things. Now, I did a brake job on this a few weeks back, and we've been riding, and when I did the brake job, I didn't have a chance to make a video, so I'm going to go over the highlights of how to do a correct brake job on a Razor where you eliminate as much of the squeaking, shaking, rattling, and rolling at least on day one. As time goes on, it might get worse because some of this stuff's going to wear, but at least you're going to start out, and then it'll give you an idea when you're doing a midwinter tear down and you want to pull your brake pads apart. You can apply these fixes to continue having a quiet brake system. First thing I want you to do is on your brake pads, you'll notice that these holes are punched square with round corners, and we're going to go on to a round hole. So you can't put a round peg in a square hole or a square peg in a round hole. Well, apparently you can, because they're doing it. The reason these are relieved, and I think you'll see this on just about every disc brake system that's out there, they don't want that to be a perfect hole because there's a possibility that rust and corrosion could build up. And with these reliefs here, there's really no way. I mean, I guess if the thing sits in the field for 2 years, that's a possibility. But even on casual use, you're not going to get enough corrosion build up in these corners here that the brake pads aren't going to be effective. First thing I want you to do when you take your brake pads out, now these happen to be front brake pads, but on the rears it's the same. What you're going to do, you're going to take a flat file or a Dremel tool and your brake pad, and you want to chamfer the leading edges of the brake material. And if you open any set of disc brake pads for a new automobile, you'll notice that those things are chamfered very heavily on the leading edges. We pay premium money for this, and that's the thickness of the brake pad that we get right there. I got a set of front brake pads that are 5 times the size for the front of a Nissan, and I think they were $29, and these are about $25 for this. Let's not argue semantics. I do want to say one thing. I've noticed in my 6,800 miles of traveling that the OEM brake pads give the longest, most predictable lifespan. And what I mean by that is you can tell when they're going to wear out. You're doing a pre-ride inspection and you look in there and you see, let's just say 50 thousandths of an inch of brake pad left, or 20 thousandths. You know you can ride all weekend. Something I found with the aftermarkets, and it caught me with my pants down one day. The brake pads looked like they had ample lining material left on them to finish out we were just going to go on a 3-day ride, and you know, half of that's sitting around the campground, and we ride 10-15 miles and stop and enjoy some canned goods and then move on to the next station and repeat. So it's not like we're riding the brake pad or brake pedal the whole time, but we get about halfway into the ride and I start getting horrible brake noise, and my left front brake pad, what little bit was left, had disintegrated, so it goes away. Anyway, not selling anybody's brake pad, but I happen to have the best luck with OEM. You're going to take your file. You're going to go in there like that, and then you're going to turn your file on about a 45-degree angle, and you're just going to chamfer the leading edge. Now, I don't know which way is the leading edge because I don't know which side I'm going to put this on, and it'll make a difference. So you do, I don't know, 20, 25 strokes, and I've already actually done this one here, so I'm just kind of repeating it. And I'm taking off the high leading edge off of the front of that pad, so I'm going to have this area of the pad is going to contact the rotor before the leading edge does. And I've actually done the middle of this one too. I've actually got my file in there and worn that down a little bit. But anyway, 25, 30 strokes, relieve that, and yes, as the brake pad wears out, you'll lose your chamfer. But I'm going to start off with a good brake job. That's number one. Number two, variety of brands. Again, I'm not selling any brands, but this happens to be Permatex Disc Brake Quiet. It's an aerosol elastic. It's not an adhesive, it's an elastic that fills in imperfections between the back of your brake pad and the piston where it hits, and it allows it to apply to the rotor on a more even surface area than it would without this stuff. It doesn't last forever, and again, I'm going to get at least a couple of 100 miles out of my brake job with no noise or anything. You want to do this at least a half an hour ahead of time. I'm going to hold this here so I can see what's going on. I've already done the other three, and what you do is you apply a nice light coat of this stuff on the back surface of the brake pad. That needs to sit for 30 minutes. I do mine a day ahead of time. When I see a brake job coming, I get the pads out. It doesn't matter. You can do it and install the brake pads 6 weeks from now. It makes no difference. That first 30 minutes is critical for the stuff to set up. Otherwise, you get it all over your clothes and your hands and everything. Okay, that's number one. Number two. Number one and two. Chamfer the leading edges. Apply some type of disc brake quiet. Also comes in a squeeze tube, like a toothpaste tube. Read the directions, apply it to the back. Number three, take some sandpaper, sandwich it on your disc brake rotor, and go around. And I know in the videos, this thing looks horrible. I mean, it looks like it's got grooves and everything in it, but the camera picks up the imperfections way better. I mean, that's just as smooth as glass right there. I don't know, I'm sure you can find a machine shop to turn these, but I'm telling you right now, if it really bothers you, it's a big job. You got to tear everything apart and, you know, press the studs out and everything to get the rotor off. On the front you do, on the rear they're bolted on. And if it really bothers you, get a belt sander and put some fine grit sandpaper, you know, some 180, 200, something like that. Go around and smooth off the edges. But otherwise, let's just get the glaze off of there. Scotch brake pad is not what you want because it just doesn't dig in hard enough. And you just go around, and I can't rotate the wheel because I got a tire laying up against the other side over there. Maybe I can go this way. Yeah, I can go that way. And you just go around and break the glaze off of there. Step number three. Step number four. We need to get rid of this slop right here. Very simple. Here's a thin piece of sheet metal, 3/1000 of an inch thick. It's an old dryer vent. You can use a pop can or a beer can. It's going to do the same thing. Cut yourself a couple of very thin strips. There's one right there, just to show you how big it is. It's about as big as the first joint on my finger. And you're going to take these thin strips, and remember, we had a square area on the brake pad, and I can get a little bit of material in there and take up some of that slack. If you'll notice, I'll take this. Be patient. There it goes. It goes right in. Let me see if I can move the camera a little bit and you can get a little better view. Let me see how that is right there. Okay, I slid that little thin piece of metal in there. You don't even need any tools. This stuff is so thin you can do it with your bare hands. Fold that up and around. This does not impede your brake pad movement. You wouldn't want to do it on this one here because it could get hung up. But on the outer pad, that's where all your noise is coming from. This one constantly has a little bit of pressure, residual pressure from your hydraulic system in your brake caliper. This one here floats, and I've already got rid of a little bit of the noise. Let's keep going. You can really only put 2 of these in each one. You just run out of room, and you just don't need any more than 2. So you're going to use a total of 4. And again, using an old beer can or something like that, It's aluminum. It's not going to rust. It's not going to get in your way. It does not impede the operation of the brake system. I'm going to go down low here and see what happens. See if I can get one in there. Yep, there it is. I'm going to pull it around. Nothing fancy, nothing precision. Just bending that around there. That's out of the way. I got one more. I pre-cut these to keep the video short. And the fourth one's a little bit of a problem to get in there. I'm not going to burn the video up doing that. Just take my words. That's going to go in there. But now, my brake pad, I'm moving that back and forth. I got rid of all that harmonic noise that's going to develop between the pad and the pin. 4 steps. Chamfer the front leading edge and the rear trailing edge, because when you put them on other sides, it could wind up being a trailing edge instead of a leading edge. Number 2, apply the adhesive or elastic material, not adhesive, I'm sorry, the elastic material to the back of your pads 30 minutes to an hour ahead of time. Number 3, sand the glaze off your brake rotor. Number 4 is insert 1 or 2 of these little thin 3/1000 thick, 1 inch long, 3/4 inch long little metal tabs there, and your problem is over. For factory steel wheels, torque your wheels to about 27 pounds. On the aluminum wheels, Polaris recommends 80 foot-pounds. I'll start World War III here. You don't need 80 foot-pounds, guys. 60 foot-pounds does fine. They're not going anywhere. You're not going to crack a wheel. You're not going to shear a stud. I really think that that's a little bit overkill. I think they're probably trying to cover themselves. If you want to do 80 foot-pounds, by all means, do 80 foot-pounds. I don't care. I'm just telling you from experience that I've been getting away with a lot less torque, and I feel as though now I'm not stretching that thread. Actually, 80 foot-pounds for 3/8 24 fasteners is a little bit over the edge, unless that's like grade 10 or grade 12, something like that. But anyway, guys, I hope this takes care of your problem. It appears to only occur on the rear of the RZR. For some reason, the fronts don't do it, or if they do, we're just not hearing it. I hope this takes care of your problem. Apply it to any other brand of machine that has this type of setup on there if you're experiencing the noise. I want to give credit to a guy that has done this video in the past. I searched high and low, trying to give him kudos. He did a really nice job. Don't know what he was working on. I think it was a Yamaha Rhino, something like that. But either way, apply this to your situation. I hope it takes care of your noise and you have a good, safe trip. Live to ride another day, guys.